Bring in the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg. Treasurer, good to see you. We will touch base with the OECD in a second, but first of all, can I get your thoughts on those claims from Mark McGowan that he's going to shut off South Australia if South Australia, in turn, opens up to Victoria and New South Wales?
That's regrettable. I think it's important that Western Australia's borders open in accordance with the plan, that obviously more people in Western Australia get vaccinated as they are in the rest of the country. Unfortunately, both Queensland and Western Australia have seen the lowest numbers of people getting vaccinated as a proportion of their population. The good news, though, today is that you're hitting 80% single dose in New South Wales, a remarkable achievement in a relatively short period of time. So overall, the vaccination rollout's gaining pace. This should give Australians confidence that we're sticking to the plan and that we'll open up according to the plan.
Okay, on to the OECD report. It's quite the warning that's come from the OECD Treasurer. It says that risks and uncertainties remain large in Australia, and it even goes on to recommend increasing the GST or some other options as well. Have you got any plans to do that?
Well, firstly, this is an important report, Pete, and from the OECD, they have reconfirmed the fundamentals of the Australian economy as sound, that the Australian economy itself is strong, and in their words, that our economic response has been appropriate, swift and well coordinated, and that's helped see the Australian economy bounce back pretty strongly after the depths of the pandemic last year. The fact that the unemployment rate as recently as July was 4.6%, a 12-year low, and that in the back half of last year we saw the strongest growth in 50 years. That being said, we have now faced the Delta variant, and we've seen lockdowns in our two largest states, and that has been a hit to the economy. It's undercut investment, and obviously it's dented confidence, and that's also reflected in this OECD report. With respect to tax reform, they make the important point that we need to continue to tackle bracket creep, and that's why we took to the last election a proposal to cut income tax, and we've subsequently delivered that and legislated that over the cries of the opposition, who've been brought kicking and screaming to the table on tax relief for hardworking Australian households and families. So that is an important vindication of our policy, their focus on reducing income tax.
Okay, but any plans to increase the GST?
No plans to increase the GST, and I know that the states, who are the biggest beneficiaries, Pete, can't even agree themselves.
Okay, so you're ruling that out? You're ruling that out?
No plans to increase the GST. What we do have plans for is obviously to cut taxes at every opportunity that we find, and we've done that on income tax. We've done it on company tax for businesses with a turnover less than $50 million. We've brought in the biggest investment incentives using the tax system ever, with immediate expensing and the loss carryback, and new innovations like the patent box, which are designed to drive new technologies, new patents in Australia, more research and development in medical and biotech.
Okay, Treasurer, the RBA has missed its economic target since 2015. There hasn't been a review in some 40 years. Is it time for a review?
Well, there have been a lot of reviews of the financial system. The Murray Review being one. Look, that is a real issue, and it's something that I'll give consideration to in terms of looking at the RBA, looking at the monetary policy settings, and learning from the experience through this pandemic. We are at a time of historically low interest rates, the cash rate at just 10 basis points. I think the RBA has performed very well through this crisis. Their policy response has been in sync and coordinated with the government's fiscal response. They've been very active on buying in the secondary market, as well as providing more liquidity into the system and a term funding facility for the banks. So I think the RBA and the government have worked very effectively together, but there is always a need to address the settings and to look at what lessons can be learned, particularly after this once-in-a-century pandemic.